Steve Harris thought he was making the best decision of his life. After years of long work days, failed relationships, and watching retirement creep closer, he decided to do something most people only dream about. He sold his house, he liquidated investments, he packed up his life, and he moved to Thailand for love. The woman waiting for him was Nok. She was warm, attentive, and everything he felt he had been missing for years. For a while, it seemed like he'd finally found the life he was searching for. Then, one morning, he woke up and realised everything was gone. Not just the money, not just the relationship, everything. And the worst part, the warning signs had been there all along. But by the time he understood what was happening, it was already too late. This is the story of how a dream relocation turned into a devastating lesson about trust, dependency, and the price of ignoring your instincts. When Steve first arrived in Thailand, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: optimism. At 58 years old, he was convinced he was beginning a new chapter. The first few months felt almost perfect. Nok helped him navigate daily life. She translated conversations, helped him open accounts, recommended contractors, introduced him to local friends. Every problem seemed to disappear before it could become serious. Looking back, Steve would later admit that this was the moment his guard started coming down. Not all at once, slowly, almost invisibly, because trust doesn't usually arrive in a single moment. It accumulates, one helpful favour at a time, one solved problem at a time, one reassuring conversation at a time. And that's exactly what happened. The first compromise seemed harmless. Steve struggled with online banking and local paperwork. Nok offered to help. At first, she simply translated documents. Then she started handling appointments. Then she began managing certain payments. Whenever Steve hesitated, there was always a practical explanation. It will be easier. It saves time. You don't understand the language. You can trust me. And to be fair, most of the time she was right. The process really was easier. The problem was that convenience gradually replaced oversight. Months passed, then years. Steve wasn't handing over control because he was careless. He was handing over control because everything seemed to be working. That's what made it dangerous. The first warning sign wasn't dramatic. It was confusing. Steve noticed Nok becoming unusually protective of financial conversations. If he asked questions, she seemed irritated. If he requested receipts, she'd tell him not to worry. Sometimes the explanations didn't quite add up, but whenever Steve considered pushing harder, he talked himself out of it. Nobody wants to believe they're suspicious of someone they love, especially after investing years into the relationship. The alternative was terrifying. If he was right, everything may be built on a lie. If he was wrong, he risked damaging the relationship. So he chose the easier option. He ignored the discomfort for a while. Then things started becoming harder to explain. Money disappeared faster than expected. Account balances seemed lower. Transfer histories looked unfamiliar. Nothing was catastrophic, not yet, just enough to create doubt. Steve began checking statements more frequently. Nok noticed. Arguments followed. Some lasted hours. Others stretched across days. The relationship that once felt effortless now felt tense. Every financial question became a conflict. Every concern became an accusation, and slowly Steve found himself questioning his own judgment. Was he overreacting? Was retirement stress making him paranoid? Was he imagining problems that didn't exist? That uncertainty became a prison, because uncertainty keeps people frozen. Steve remembers the day everything changed like it was yesterday. He logged into an account he hadn't checked for several weeks. At first, he thought there had been a system error. The balance couldn't be right. He refreshed the screen, then refreshed it again. The numbers didn't change. Large transfers had been made over time. Some recent, some months old. Some stretching back much further than he'd realised. His stomach dropped. He called the bank. He spent nearly an hour navigating automated systems. Then another hour waiting for a representative. Finally, he got answers. The transfers had been authorised, properly documented, no evidence of hacking, no indication of fraud. The transactions were valid, at least from the bank's perspective. That was the moment panic replaced doubt. Steve drove home, desperate for explanations, but Knock wasn't there. Her phone went unanswered. Messages remained unread. At first, he assumed she needed space. Then hours passed. Then a day. Then another. The silence became impossible to ignore. Friends couldn't reach her. Mutual contacts claimed they hadn't spoken recently. The explanations became increasingly difficult to believe, and yet Steve still resisted the obvious conclusion, because accepting reality meant accepting betrayal, and betrayal is often the last thing people allow themselves to believe. What followed wasn't a dramatic movie-style rescue mission. It was paperwork, delays, confusion, dead ends, the kind of frustration that slowly drains hope. Steve met lawyers. Some seemed helpful. Others appeared more interested in fees than solutions. Each consultation ended with another obstacle, another document, another delay, another explanation of why recovering the money would be difficult. Not impossible, just difficult. And sometimes difficult is worse, because it keeps hope alive while progress remains invisible. Weeks became months. The pressure mounted. Bills continued arriving. Legal expenses increased. Sleep became rare. What shocked Steve most wasn't the financial loss. It was what the loss revealed. For years, he'd believed he was building a future. Instead, he'd built a dependency. His finances, his social network, his daily routines, his plans. Everything had become connected to a single person. When she disappeared, those connections collapsed, and rebuilding them proved far harder than creating them in the first place. Every step forward required effort. Every decision carried consequences. Every mistake felt expensive. The emotional damage lingered long after the financial damage became measurable. Today, Steve speaks openly about what happened, not because he enjoys reliving it, but because he wishes someone had warned him. The biggest mistake wasn't trusting someone. Trust is necessary in every relationship. The mistake was ignoring discomfort because the truth felt inconvenient. The mistake was believing that love somehow made basic safeguards unnecessary. It doesn't, and it never will. The strongest relationships can survive transparency. The wrong relationships depend on avoiding it. Stories like Steve's are difficult to hear because they force us to confront uncomfortable realities. Most major losses don't happen overnight. They happen gradually, one compromise, one exception, one ignored warning sign at a time. If this story taught you anything, share it with someone who may need to hear it. And if you've experienced something similar or know someone who has, we'd love to hear your story in the comments. Your experience could help someone avoid making the same mistake. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Take care of yourselves, stay vigilant, and we'll see you in the next story.